The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched as far as the eye could see. Thousands of seats filled the curved walls, each one designed for a different alien species. Some seats held tall, thin creatures with multiple arms. Others had small pools of water for the fish-like beings. The air itself was carefully controlled to let everyone breathe. Today, the hall buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from across the galaxy had come for an emergency meeting. The reason was simple and terrifying. The Vorthak Empire had made a threat. The Vorthaks were not a species anyone wanted to anger. They stood 8 feet tall, with thick scales covering their reptilian bodies. Their claws could tear through steel, and their ships could destroy entire planets. For the past 1,000 years, they had been conquering one star system after another. Most species simply gave up when they saw the Vorthak fleet approaching. But this time was different. This time they had threatened a species that had only recently joined the galactic community. A young race called humans. War Chief Thexmore stood at the center of the hall, his massive form casting a shadow over the nearby delegates. His yellow eyes swept across the room, and every creature he looked at seemed to shrink back. Even the brave ones felt their hearts beat faster when those eyes landed on them. "The matter is simple," Thexmore said, his voice like rolling thunder. "These humans have 12 worlds in our territory. They will give them to us, or we will take them by force. I have given them 3 solar cycles to decide." The other delegates whispered among themselves. Everyone knew what this meant. The humans were doomed. Their technology was primitive compared to the rest of the galaxy. They had only discovered faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. Their ships were slow and weak. Their weapons were ancient by galactic standards. Chancellor Vexitari raised one of her crystal hands for silence. She was tall and made of what looked like living glass, with light flowing through her body in beautiful patterns. As the leader of the council, she had seen many young species face this same choice. Most chose to surrender rather than fight an impossible war. "Has the human government sent a representative?" she asked. "They have," said one of the council workers, a small gray being with large black eyes. "A single shuttle arrived this morning." Many of the delegates laughed at this. A single shuttle. Not even a proper diplomatic ship. The humans were even more pathetic than they had thought. The main doors of the hall opened with a deep rumble. All conversation stopped as everyone turned to look. 2 figures walked through the entrance, and the sight of them made several delegates chuckle quietly. The humans looked so ordinary. They were small compared to most galactic species, standing only about 6 feet tall. Their skin was smooth and soft-looking, without scales or armor or natural weapons. They wore simple dark uniforms that looked almost military but clearly came from a backward world. The first human was a man with short black hair and calm dark eyes. He walked with steady steps, showing no fear despite being surrounded by creatures that could easily kill him. Behind him came a woman, also with black hair tied back neatly. She carried a small bag and what looked like some kind of communication device. "I am Commander Genu Park of the Terran Diplomatic Corps," the man said when he reached the speaking platform. His voice was clear and polite. "This is Lieutenant Yuna Kim, my aide. We are here to represent humanity in this matter." Thexmore looked down at the small human and bared his teeth in what might have been a smile. "So, the children have sent their teacher to negotiate with the adults." Some of the delegates laughed at this joke. Others felt sorry for the humans. Everyone could see how this would end. The man called Genu Park seemed so calm and confident, but he had no idea what his people were facing. "We thank the council for allowing us to speak," Genu said, bowing slightly. "We understand there has been some confusion about our colonies." "Confusion?" Thexmore's voice rose to a roar. "There is no confusion, little human. Your people are in our space. You will leave, or you will die. Those are your only choices." Genu nodded as if he was listening to a weather report. "We appreciate your directness, War Chief. However, we would like to present our position to the full council, if that is acceptable." Chancellor Vexitari's lights pulsed slowly as she considered. The human seemed remarkably calm for someone whose entire species was under threat. Perhaps he did not understand the situation. Perhaps his people had not told him how hopeless their position was. "Very well," she said finally. "The council will hear from both parties. War Chief Thexmore, you may present your case first." Thexmore stepped forward, his claws clicking on the stone floor. With a gesture, he activated a holographic display that filled the center of the hall. The image showed a map of local space, with various systems marked in different colors. "These red systems belong to the Vorthak Empire," he began. "We have held them for 500 years. Our fleets patrol this region. Our laws govern these worlds." He pointed to 12 green dots scattered through the red areas. "These are the human colonies. They are surrounded by our territory. They exist only because we have allowed it." The display changed to show images of massive Vorthak warships. Each one was the size of a small city, covered in weapon systems that could turn a planet to ash in minutes. Hundreds of them floated in perfect formation, their dark hulls reflecting the light of nearby stars. "The Vorthak 7th Fleet consists of 10,000 battle cruisers," Thexmore continued. "Each ship carries enough firepower to destroy a moon. We have been patient with these humans because they are young and foolish, but our patience has limits." He turned to look directly at Jinnu Park. "Your people have 3 choices, human. First, you can abandon your colonies and flee to whatever distant world you came from. Second, you can accept Vorthak rule and become our servants. Third, you can resist, and we will destroy every human ship, station, and settlement in our territory." The hall fell silent except for the quiet humming of the air systems. Many delegates stared at their hands or the floor, not wanting to meet the human representative's eyes. They had seen this scene too many times before. Young species always thought they could stand against the old powers. They always learned too late how wrong they were. But when Jinnu Park spoke, his voice was as calm as ever. "Thank you for explaining your position, War Chief. We will certainly consider all you have said." He paused and looked around the hall, meeting the eyes of delegates from dozens of different worlds. "However, I should point out that those 12 colonies you mentioned represent only a small part of human space." Several delegates frowned at this. The humans' words made no sense. According to all their intelligence, those 12 worlds were the entirety of human civilization, beyond their home system. Yuna Kim stepped forward and handed Jinnu a small device. He accepted it with a nod and clipped it to his uniform. "We would appreciate the opportunity to present humanity's perspective on this matter," Jinnu said. "If the council is willing to listen." Chancellor Vextari's crystal body pulsed with soft blue light as she called for order. The whispered conversations around the great hall slowly died down, though many delegates continued to stare at the 2 humans standing calmly at the speaking platform. "The council recognizes Commander Park of the human delegation," Vextari announced. "You may present your people's position." Jinnu Park stepped forward, his hands clasped behind his back in a respectful pose. Despite being surrounded by thousands of alien beings, many of whom could kill him with their bare hands, he showed no sign of fear or nervousness. "Honored Chancellor, respected delegates," he began, his voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. "Humanity is grateful for this opportunity to address the Council. We are indeed new to galactic society, having achieved faster-than-light travel only recently. We have much to learn from the wisdom of older civilizations." Several delegates nodded approvingly at his humble tone. The Luminari representative, Seer Oros, was particularly pleased. The Luminari were beings of pure energy who had transcended physical form millions of years ago. They appreciated when younger species showed proper respect for their elders. "However," Jinnu continued, "we must respectfully disagree with War Chief Thexmore's characterization of our territory." This caused a stir among the delegates. Many exchanged surprised glances. What could this human possibly mean? The intelligence reports were clear. The 12 colonies Thexmore had mentioned were the only human settlements anyone had detected in this region of space. Thexmore's yellow eyes narrowed as he glared at the small human. "Do you dare to question Vorthak intelligence, little one? Our scouts have mapped every system in our territory. We know exactly where your pathetic colonies are located." "With respect, War Chief," Jinnu replied politely, "your scouts have found some of our settlements, but not all of them. The 12 worlds you mentioned are research stations and monitoring posts, not true colonies. A ripple of confused murmurs swept through the chamber. Elder Kethra of the Chithari hive clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. The Chithari were insectoid beings with natural abilities to detect patterns and hidden connections. If anyone could spot deception, it would be them. Human representative, Kethra said in her buzzing voice. Please clarify your statement. Are you claiming that your people have additional settlements beyond those identified by Vorthak reconnaissance? Jinu nodded calmly. Yes, Elder Kethra. Those 12 locations represent our furthest monitoring stations in this direction. Our actual colonial territories lie in different regions of space. This statement caused an uproar. Delegates from dozens of species began talking at once, their voices creating a cacophony of sounds that ranged from musical chirping to deep mechanical rumbles. The translation system struggled to keep up with the overlapping conversations. Chancellor Vextari raised both her crystal hands, and the chamber gradually fell silent again. Commander Park, you must understand how this sounds to the Council. Our combined intelligence networks have been monitoring this region for centuries. No major human presence has been detected beyond the colonies in question. We understand your confusion, Chancellor, Jinu replied. Humanity has always been careful about revealing our full capabilities to unknown civilizations. We prefer to observe and learn before making contact. War Chief Thexmore slammed his massive fist on the platform, creating a sound like thunder. Enough of these games. Do you take the Council for fools? If your people had significant territories, our sensors would have found them. Your technology is primitive compared to ours. Lieutenant Yuna Kim leaned forward and whispered something in Jinu's ear. He listened and nodded, then turned back to address the assembly. War Chief Thexmore raises an excellent point about technology, Jinu said. It is true that the ships and equipment we have revealed so far appear primitive by galactic standards. This is by design. When exploring unknown regions, we prefer to appear less advanced than we actually are. It tends to make first contact situations less complicated. Flow singer Nimara of the Depth Swimmers moved closer to the platform. Her aquatic form moved gracefully through the water-filled tube that allowed her to participate in council sessions. Young human, your words suggest elaborate deception. The Depth Swimmers have long memories of the ocean currents of space. We have detected no hidden human fleets or advanced technology. That is because our people are very good at not being detected when we choose not to be. Jinu replied simply. This statement struck many delegates as absurdly arrogant. The idea that a species barely 50 years into space travel could hide from the combined intelligence networks of galactic civilization was laughable. Even the most advanced stealth technology known to the Council could only fool sensors for short periods. Seer Oros floated forward, his energy form creating beautiful patterns of light. Commander Park, the Luminari have observed the rise and fall of many civilizations. We have seen young species make grand claims about hidden powers or secret technologies. Such claims usually stem from fear and desperation rather than fact. I understand your skepticism, Seer, Jinu replied. In your position, I would feel the same way. However, I can only report what I know to be true about my people's capabilities and territory. Elder Kethra studied the human with her compound eyes. Something about his manner puzzled her. Most representatives from threatened species showed clear signs of stress, increased breathing, nervous movements, chemical changes that her sensitive antennae could detect. This human showed none of these signs. Either he was an exceptionally skilled liar, or he genuinely believed what he was saying. Let us assume for a moment that your claims are accurate, she buzzed. If humanity possesses hidden territories and advanced technology, why reveal yourselves now? Why not remain hidden as you claim to prefer? Jinu glanced at Yuna, who gave him a subtle nod. An excellent question, Elder. The truth is, we had hoped to observe galactic civilization for several more decades before making formal contact. However, when the Vorthak Empire began expanding into regions near our monitoring stations, we were forced to reveal those facilities to prevent misunderstandings. And yet, Thexmore growled, you claim these are merely monitoring stations, not your real territory. If that is true, why not simply abandon them? Why risk war over 12 unimportant worlds? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Every delegate in the chamber waited for the human's response. This was the heart of the matter. If the colonies were truly unimportant, any rational species would abandon them rather than face the Vorthak war machine. Those stations have great strategic value to us, Jinu said carefully. They monitor regions of space that are critical to our security. We cannot simply abandon them without compromising our people's safety. Strategic value? Thexmore's laugh was like the roar of a predator. 12 small worlds have strategic value against the Vorthak Empire? Human, your people's situation is even more desperate than I thought. You are trying to convince us that you have secret powers and hidden fleets, but the truth is obvious. You are terrified and you are lying. Many delegates nodded in agreement. The human story simply did not make sense. Advanced civilizations did not hide from younger species. Powerful militaries did not pretend to be weak. The most logical explanation was that humanity was bluffing, hoping to convince the Council to protect them from Vorthak aggression. Chancellor Vexitari's lights pulsed slowly as she considered the situation. Commander Park, the Council appreciates your people's difficult position. However, we must deal with facts, not claims. The Vorthak Empire has presented clear evidence of their military superiority. You have offered only words about hidden capabilities. I understand the Council's position, Jinu replied. However, I am not authorized to reveal details about humanity's defensive capabilities without direct orders from my superiors. Then contact your superiors, Thexmore snarled. Let them explain why they think 12 worthless worlds are worth a war they cannot win. Jinu looked at the communication device Yuna had given him earlier. Very well. I will request authorization to provide additional information about humanity's position. He paused and looked around the chamber. However, I should warn the Council that once certain information is revealed, it cannot be unrevealed. Sometimes ignorance is more comfortable than knowledge. Several delegates frowned at this cryptic statement. What could a primitive species possibly know that would disturb the galactic community? Request your authorization, human, Thexmore said impatiently. The Council has wasted enough time on your empty threats and mysterious warnings. Jinu activated the communication device and spoke a few words in what the translation systems identified as Korean. Then he clipped the device back to his uniform and turned to face the assembly. My request has been sent, he announced. We should have a response shortly. As they waited, nervous energy filled the Great Hall. Most delegates expected the human government to recall their representative and agree to abandon the disputed colonies. A few wondered if humanity might actually have some hidden capability that would surprise them. None of them suspected that they were about to witness the revelation that would change galactic politics forever. While they waited for the humans' mysterious authorization, several council members decided to try a different approach. The situation was clearly hopeless for humanity, but perhaps they could convince these representatives to see reason before their entire species was destroyed. Chancellor Vexitari was the first to speak. Her crystal form glowed with warm, motherly light as she addressed the two humans. Commander Park, Lieutenant Kim, perhaps this is a good time to discuss the realities of galactic politics. The Council has seen many young species face similar challenges. Jinu nodded respectfully. We would be honored to hear the Council's wisdom. Chancellor. When a species first achieves faster-than-light travel, they often believe they are ready to stand among the great powers of the galaxy. Vextari explained gently. This is natural. Your people have accomplished something magnificent by reaching the stars. However, the galaxy is vast and old. Civilizations that have existed for millions of years have advantages that cannot be overcome by courage alone. Lieutenant Yuna Kim listened carefully, occasionally taking notes on a small device. Her calm expression never changed, even when Chancellor Vexitari began describing the fate of species that had challenged established powers. The Council records contain the histories of thousands of civilizations. Vexitari continued. Some grew slowly and carefully, accepting guidance from older species. These civilizations often thrived and became valued members of the galactic community. Others tried to expand too quickly or challenge powers beyond their understanding. Most of these are now extinct. Seer Oros floated closer, his energy form pulsing with sympathetic colors. The Luminari remember when we too were young and proud. We believed our transcendence of physical form made us superior to all other species. We challenged the ancients, a race so old that stars were born and died during their conversations. They could have destroyed us easily, but instead they showed us wisdom. They taught us patience and humility. What happened to these ancients? Jinu asked with genuine curiosity. They ascended to a higher plane of existence long ago, Oros replied. But their lesson remains. True strength comes from understanding one's place in the cosmic order, not from fighting against it. Elder Kethra of the Chithari moved her segmented body closer to the platform. Her compound eyes studied the humans with scientific interest. The Hive has analyzed 17 conflicts between young species and the Vorthak Empire over the past millennium. The pattern is always the same. First comes denial, the belief that hidden advantages or secret allies will change the outcome. Then comes desperate bargaining, offers of tribute or unique resources. Finally comes acceptance, the choice between submission and extinction. She clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. Humans, you are currently in the denial phase. This is understandable but dangerous. The longer you remain in denial, the less favorable your eventual terms of surrender will be. War Chief Thexmore watched this exchange with growing impatience. His tail lashed behind him as he listened to the other delegates trying to educate the stubborn humans. Enough philosophy, he rumbled. Let me explain the reality in terms even these primitives can understand. He activated another holographic display, this one showing detailed scans of human technology. The images revealed ships that looked crude compared to galactic standards. With thick armor plating and simple weapon systems, their engines appeared barely capable of achieving faster than light speeds. These are your finest warships, Thexmore said mockingly. They are slow, weak, and few in number. Our intelligence indicates that your entire fleet consists of perhaps 300 vessels. A single Vorthak battle group contains more firepower than your entire civilization. The display changed to show comparative statistics. Vorthak shields could withstand energy outputs that would vaporize human ships. Vorthak weapons could destroy targets from distances human sensors could not even detect. Vorthak engines could cross the galaxy while human ships were still leaving their home system. Do you see now, little humans? Thexmore asked. This is not a war. This would be extermination. Your only hope for survival is complete surrender. Flowsinger Nimara added her voice to the discussion. Her words carried through the water-filled tubes that allowed her to participate. The depth swimmers have navigated the currents of space for eons. We have learned to read the tides of power that flow between civilizations. Currently, humanity exists in a small peaceful eddy. The Vorthak represent a tsunami that will either carry you to safety or dash you against the rocks. We appreciate the Council's concern for our welfare, Genu replied politely. However, our government has given us specific instructions regarding the disputed territories. Many delegates exchanged worried glances. The human's tone suggested that his government was still refusing to accept reality. This kind of stubborn pride had led to the extinction of entire species in the past. A new voice joined the conversation. Ambassador Rethicor of the Mechanical Collective spoke with the precise tones of an artificial being. Humans, the collective has performed computational analysis of your situation. The probability of successful resistance against the Vorthak Empire is approximately 0.0003%. This calculation assumes optimal performance from all human forces and severe tactical errors by the Vorthak. Even under the most favorable possible circumstances, your species cannot win this conflict. Statistics can be misleading, Lieutenant Yuna Kim said quietly. It was the first time she had spoken since arriving, and her words surprised many delegates. In what way could they be misleading? Rethkor asked with mechanical curiosity. They assume complete information about all relevant factors, Yuna replied. If important data is missing or incorrect, even perfect calculations will produce wrong answers. Elder Kethra's antennae twitched with interest. Are you suggesting that the Council's intelligence about human capabilities is incomplete? I'm suggesting that our people are careful about what information we share with strangers, Yuna said simply. This statement caused another round of frustrated murmurs throughout the chamber. Several delegates began to wonder if the humans were suffering from some form of mass delusion. It was not uncommon for young species to develop unrealistic beliefs about their own capabilities when faced with overwhelming threats. Chancellor Vexitari tried a more direct approach. Commander Park, let us speak plainly. Even if your people possess capabilities beyond what we have observed, the Vorthak Empire controls 10,000 star systems. Their resources are virtually unlimited. No single species, regardless of technology, can stand against such overwhelming numbers. Numbers can be deceiving as well, Genu replied. History is full of examples where smaller forces defeated larger ones through superior strategy, technology, or preparation. War Chief Thexmore snorted with derision. History is also full of extinct species who believe the same thing. Human, your people's arrogance will be their doom. When my fleets arrive at your colonies, there will be no miraculous victory. There will only be death and fire. The communication device on Jinu's uniform suddenly chimed with a soft tone. He looked down at it, then at Yuna, who nodded slightly. It appears my authorization has arrived, Jinu announced to the chamber. Finally, Thexmore growled. Now we will see if your government has any sense. I expect you will shortly announce humanity's complete surrender. But instead of looking defeated or relieved, Jinu Park's expression remained as calm as ever. If anything, he seemed slightly more confident than before. Before I share my government's response, he said, I want to thank the Council for their patience and wisdom. You have all shown great concern for humanity's welfare. Even though we are newcomers to galactic society, this kindness will be remembered. Several delegates frowned at his choice of words. The human spoke as if he was saying goodbye, not delivering a surrender. However, Jinu continued, my government has instructed me to decline the Vorthak ultimatum. Furthermore, we consider any attack on human territory to be an act of war that will be met with appropriate force. The chamber exploded into chaos. Delegates from dozens of species began shouting at once, their voices creating a thunderous roar that echoed off the curved walls. Some called the humans insane. Others demanded to know what they thought they could accomplish. A few simply stared in shocked silence. War Chief Thexmore's roar cut through the noise like a blade. You dare threaten the Vorthak Empire? You pathetic fool. When my fleets arrive at your worlds, I will personally ensure that every human dies slowly. But Jinu Park seemed unaffected by the threat. He calmly removed the communication device from his uniform and held it in his hand. War Chief Thexmore, he said, his voice somehow carrying clearly through the chaos. Before you send your fleets anywhere, perhaps you should check with your own commanders. Something in his tone made the alien delegates fall silent. There was a quality to his words that had not been there before. A quiet confidence that suggested he knew something they did not. Thexmore's yellow eyes narrowed to slits. What are you talking about, human? Jinu looked down at the device in his hand, then back up at the assembled delegates. I was hoping it would not come to this, but my government has authorized me to provide a demonstration of humanity's actual capabilities. He lifted the emergency alerts began as a low humming sound that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Within seconds, the noise grew louder and more urgent. Red warning lights flashed throughout the Great Hall, casting strange shadows on the faces of confused delegates. Chancellor Vextari's crystal form blazed with bright light as she tried to understand what was happening. Security report. What is the nature of this emergency? Before anyone could answer, communication panels throughout the chamber began lighting up with incoming messages. Delegates from dozens of species reached for their personal communication devices, their expressions changing from confusion to alarm as they read the reports flooding in. Elder Kethra was among the first to speak, her compound eyes wide with disbelief. The Chithari home fleet. They report massive ships appearing throughout our system, ships they have never seen before. Flowsinger Nimara's aquatic form moved frantically through her water-filled tube as she processed the information flowing to her. The depth swimmer navy confirms the same phenomenon. Unknown vessels of enormous size have appeared at every major military installation. Seer Oros flickered with rapid pulses of light, his energy form struggling to maintain coherence as shock overwhelmed his ancient mind. The luminary transcendent spheres detect the same presence throughout our space. These ships, they are unlike anything in our databases. More reports flooded in with each passing second. The mechanical collective's computational network screamed warnings about massive objects that had somehow bypassed all their sensors. The Crystalline Prism Coalition found their asteroid fortresses surrounded by vessels that defied their understanding of space-time. War Chief Thexmore grabbed his personal communicator with shaking claws. Command report! What is happening to our fleets? The voice that answered him was filled with terror. War Chief, massive unknown ships have appeared throughout Vorthak space. They are surrounding every battle group, every shipyard, every military station. We count thousands of them. They must have been cloaked somehow, but our sensors show nothing that advance should be possible. The blood drained from Thexmore's scaled face as the truth began to dawn on him. He looked across the platform at the small human who still stood calmly with the communication device in his hand. You, Thexmore whispered.
This is impossible.
Your technology is primitive. Your ships are barely capable of spaceflight. Jinu Park looked up from his device with a slight smile. The ships you observed were exactly what we wanted you to observe, War Chief. We have found that first contact situations go more smoothly when we appear less threatening than we actually are. Ambassador Rethicor of the Mechanical Collective spoke with mechanical precision, even as his calculations began to fall apart. The Collective's analysis indicated human technology was centuries behind galactic standards. These readings cannot be accurate. Your analysis was based on the technology we chose to reveal, Lieutenant Yuna Kim said calmly. We have been monitoring galactic civilization for much longer than you realize. We learned early that advanced newcomers tend to be viewed as threats rather than potential allies. Chancellor Vexitari's lights pulsed rapidly as she tried to process this information. Are you saying that humanity has been deceiving the galactic community? That your primitive appearance was deliberate? Not deceiving, Jinu corrected gently. Simply being cautious. When you encounter a new group of people, do you immediately reveal all your capabilities and weaknesses, or do you observe and learn before deciding how much to trust them? The question hung in the air as delegates throughout the chamber began to understand the magnitude of their miscalculation. The humans had not been primitive newcomers stumbling into galactic politics. They had been careful observers, studying every major civilization while remaining hidden in plain sight. Flow singer Nim Ara's voice carried a note of awe. The monitoring stations. You said the 12 colonies were monitoring stations. You have been watching us. For approximately 200 of your standard years, Yuna confirmed. Those facilities were some of our most advanced observation posts, designed to study galactic civilization from multiple angles. We learned your languages, your politics, your military capabilities, and your weaknesses. Elder Kethra clicked her mandibles nervously. 200 years? But humans only achieved faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. That is when first contact was made. That is when we chose to make contact, Jinu corrected. Our first ships entered this region of space long before any of your civilizations detected us. We spent decades developing stealth technology specifically designed to hide from your sensors. War Chief Thexmore stared at his communicator as more reports came in. Each message painted the same picture. Vorthak space was filled with human ships that should not exist. Ships that were larger, more advanced, and more numerous than anything in the galactic databases. How many ships? He asked in a voice barely above a whisper. Jinu consulted his communication device. Currently positioned throughout known space, approximately 50,000 active vessels with another 100,000 in reserve. Of course, those numbers only include our military fleet. Our civilian shipping network is considerably larger. The number hit the assembled delegates like a physical blow. 50,000 ships was more than the combined fleets of most galactic civilizations. 150,000 total vessels represented a military force that could conquer the entire galaxy, if it chose to. Seer Oros flickered with confused patterns of light. This cannot be possible. The industrial capacity required to build such a fleet would take millennia to develop. Where did you construct these vessels without being detected? We did not construct them in this region of space, Yuna replied. Humanity's true territory lies in areas you have not yet explored. What you discovered were our furthest outposts, not our colonies. Chancellor Vextari finally found her voice. How far does human space extend? Our current borders encompass approximately 23,000 star systems, Jinu said casually, as if he was discussing the weather. Most of them are in regions the galactic community has never visited. We prefer areas that older civilizations consider uninteresting or difficult to reach. The scale of this revelation struck the delegates speechless. 23,000 systems represented an empire larger than any known civilization. The Vorthak, considered one of the greatest powers in the galaxy, controlled only 10,000 systems. Ambassador Rethcor processed this information with mechanical precision. If accurate, this places humanity among the 5 largest civilizations in known space. Yet you have remained completely hidden from our detection networks. We are very good at not being found when we choose not to be, Jinu said. Humanity learned early that survival often depends on seeing without being seen. War Chief Thexmore's communicator chimed again. This time the voice on the other end was barely controlled panic. War Chief, the human ships are transmitting a message. They are demanding immediate cessation of all military operations and complete withdrawal from the disputed territories. They are giving us 1 standard hour to comply. Thexmore looked up at Ginu with eyes that now held fear instead of contempt. What happens if we refuse? I would prefer not to find out, Ginu replied quietly. My people have spent 2 centuries studying your military capabilities. We know exactly how to neutralize every ship class, every weapon system, and every defensive strategy in your arsenal. The same is true for every other galactic civilization. The implications of this statement slowly sank in. Humanity had not just been hiding their own capabilities. They had been systematically analyzing the weaknesses of every potential enemy. They possessed detailed intelligence about military secrets that had taken other civilizations millennia to develop. Elder Kethra's antennae twitched with nervous energy. You have been preparing for war this entire time. We have been preparing for peace, Ginu corrected. But we learned long ago that the best way to achieve peace is to be prepared for anything else. Chancellor Vexitari's lights dimmed as she struggled to comprehend the new reality. Commander Park, what exactly are your people's intentions? Are you here to conquer us? Quite the opposite, Ginu replied. We would prefer to join the galactic community as equals, working together for mutual benefit. However, we will not tolerate aggression against our people or territory. He looked directly at War Chief Thexmore. The Vorthak ultimatum forced our hand. We had hoped to observe for several more decades before revealing ourselves. But your threats against our monitoring stations made secrecy impossible. Thexmore's massive form seemed to shrink as the reality of his situation became clear. What do you want from us? Immediate withdrawal of all Vorthak forces from the disputed territories, Ginu said. Formal recognition of humanity's sovereignty over our claimed systems, and most importantly, a commitment to peaceful coexistence. And if we refuse? Thexmore asked, though they all knew the answer. Ginu's expression remained calm, but his words carried the weight of absolute certainty. Then the galaxy will learn why humanity spent 2 centuries preparing for this moment. Instead of announcing our presence, immediately, the great hall fell silent except for the quiet humming of air, systems, and the distant sound of emergency alerts. The silence in the great hall stretched on as thousands of alien delegates tried to process what they had just learned. The humans they had dismissed as primitive newcomers were actually representatives of one of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. The implications of this revelation rippled through their minds like waves from a dropped stone. Chancellor Vextari was the first to speak, her crystal form pulsing with dim, uncertain light. Commander Park, I must ask directly, what exactly are humanity's intentions toward the galactic community? Ginu Park looked around the vast chamber, meeting the eyes of delegates from dozens of different species. When he spoke, his voice carried the quiet authority of someone who knew he held all the power in the room. Humanity seeks peaceful coexistence and mutual prosperity, he said. We believe that different species can accomplish far more working together than fighting each other. However, we will not tolerate aggression against our people or interference with our legitimate interests. War Chief Thexmore's communicator chimed again. His hands shook slightly as he answered it. The voice on the other end was that of Admiral Kethvak, the commander of the Vorthak 7th Fleet. War Chief, the human ships are requesting direct communication with you. They wish to discuss terms. Thexmore looked across the platform at Ginu with an expression that mixed fear and desperate hope. Terms? What terms? Perhaps we should handle this conversation here, where the full council can witness it, Ginu suggested. Lieutenant Kim, please establish a direct link to Admiral Kethvak. Yuna stepped forward and activated a small device from her equipment bag. Instantly, a holographic image appeared above the platform. The figure that materialized was clearly Vorthak, tall, scaled, and powerful, but his posture showed none of the arrogance typical of his species. I am Admiral Kethvak of the 7th Fleet, the image said, his voice carefully controlled. I am authorized to negotiate on behalf of the Vorthak Empire. I am Admiral Ginu Park of the Terran Defense Force, Ginu replied, and several delegates gasped at the revelation of his true rank. What is the current status of your fleet, Admiral? Kethvak's scales seemed to darken with shame. Every ship in my command is surrounded by vessels of unknown design. Our weapons are targeting systems we cannot identify, and our shields are being scanned by technology we do not understand. My tactical officers report that the human ships appear capable of disabling our entire fleet without sustaining any damage themselves. The admission struck the council chamber like a thunderbolt. The Vorthak 7th Fleet was considered one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. If they were helpless against human technology, what hope did any other civilization have? That assessment is correct, Admiral Park said calmly. However, I want to make clear that we have no desire for unnecessary bloodshed. Humanity's goal is to resolve this situation peacefully. War Chief Thexmore found his voice, though it came out as barely more than a whisper. What are your demands? They are quite simple, Genu replied. First, immediate withdrawal of all Vorthak military forces from the systems containing our monitoring stations. Second, formal recognition of humanity's sovereignty over our claimed territory. Third, establishment of peaceful diplomatic relations between our civilizations. Admiral Kethvak's image flickered as he consulted with his officers. And if the Empire agrees to these terms, then our fleets will withdraw to their previous positions and this incident will be considered closed, Genu said. Humanity has no territorial ambitions in Vorthak space. We simply wish to protect our own people and interests. Elder Kethra clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. Admiral Park, you say that humanity claims 23,000 star systems. How much additional expansion do you anticipate? Our current territory meets our needs for the foreseeable future, Genu replied. We prefer to develop existing systems rather than constantly expanding into new ones. Quality over quantity, you might say. Flow singer Nimara moved closer in her water-filled tube. The depth swimmers must ask, what of other species that might conflict with human interests? Will you respond to every threat with overwhelming force? We will respond to threats with the minimum force necessary to protect our people, Genu said carefully. However, I should point out that this situation arose only because the Vorthak Empire chose to threaten human territory. We did not seek this confrontation. Seer Oros pulsed with uncertain patterns of light. Admiral, your revelation has fundamentally altered the balance of galactic power. Many civilizations will need time to adjust their policies and expectations. We understand, Genu replied. Humanity is prepared to be patient as the galactic community adapts to our presence. We have waited 2 centuries to reveal ourselves. We can wait a little longer for others to become comfortable with the new situation. Ambassador Rethkor of the Mechanical Collective spoke with mechanical precision. The collective requests clarification. Will humanity be sharing its advanced technology with other civilizations? That will depend on the circumstances, Genu said diplomatically. We are willing to engage in mutually beneficial technology exchanges with peaceful civilizations. However, we will not provide weapons technology to aggressive species or share critical defensive secrets. War Chief Thexmore's communicator chimed once more. This time the voice belonged to Supreme Commander Vorthak himself, the leader of the entire Vorthak military. War Chief Thexmore, you will inform the human admiral that the Vorthak Empire accepts their terms unconditionally. All forces are to withdraw immediately from the disputed systems. Furthermore, you are authorized to begin formal diplomatic negotiations. The admission of defeat from the Supreme Commander sent shockwaves through the council chamber. The Vorthak Empire, which had dominated galactic politics through military might for over a millennium, had just surrendered without firing a single shot. Admiral Park nodded to the holographic image of Admiral Kethvak. Please inform your Supreme Commander that humanity accepts the Vorthak Empire's agreement. Our forces will monitor the withdrawal to ensure compliance, but we consider this matter resolved. The image of Admiral Kethvak bowed his head respectfully. It will be done, Admiral. I apologize for the misunderstanding that led to this situation. No apology necessary, Genu replied graciously. This kind of confusion is exactly why we prefer to make contact slowly and carefully. Perhaps in the future, both our civilizations will be more cautious about making assumptions. As the holographic communication ended, Chancellor Vexitari stepped forward. Her crystal form was now glowing with steady, determined light. Admiral Park, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I want to formally welcome humanity to the galactic community. Your dramatic introduction has certainly made an impression. Genu smiled slightly. We apologize for the theatrical nature of our reveal, Chancellor. However, we felt it was important to establish our capabilities clearly from the beginning. This should prevent future misunderstandings. Elder Kethra spoke up, her compound eyes studying the human admiral carefully. Admiral, the Council would be honored if humanity would consider joining our organization formally. Your civilization would bring unique perspectives and capabilities to our deliberations. Humanity would be interested in exploring membership, Genu replied. However, we would need to review the Council's charter and procedures carefully. We have learned to be cautious about international agreements. Seer Oros floated closer, his energy form pulsing with respectful patterns. Admiral, may the Luminary ask how long humanity has been observing galactic civilization? Our first scout ships entered this region approximately 230 years ago, Genu said. We have been monitoring galactic communications, studying your cultures, and learning your languages ever since. And in all that time, no one detected your presence? Flow Singer Namara asked with obvious amazement. Our stealth technology is quite advanced, Lieutenant Yuna Kim said with a slight smile. We also chose our observation points carefully. The 12 monitoring stations you discovered were placed in systems that most civilizations considered uninteresting. Ambassador Rethkor processed this information with mechanical efficiency. The implications are significant. If humanity can observe other civilizations undetected, how many other advanced species might be doing the same? An excellent question, Genu replied. We have detected evidence of at least 3 other civilizations that maintain similar observation programs. The galaxy is apparently full of species that prefer to watch rather than participate directly in galactic politics. This revelation sent another wave of shock through the chamber. The idea that multiple advanced civilizations might be secretly observing the galactic community challenged every assumption about interstellar relations. Chancellor Vexitares' lights pulsed slowly as she considered the implications. Admiral Park, this has been perhaps the most significant council session in our recorded history. Are there any other revelations humanity wishes to share? Genu consulted his communication device one final time. Actually, yes. My government has authorized me to extend an invitation to the Council. Humanity will be hosting a diplomatic conference in 6 months to discuss formal relationships with all interested civilizations. We hope to establish permanent,